rocking.
I can't hear myself at all.
It's on. It's a red light though. It should be a green light.
Hello? Check, check, check.
It's not coming in.
There,
Is it
a
on?
little bit. Moshe, can you turn?
I think it's good now. Yeah. Thank God we have motion.
Shabbos, 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 Shabbos. So sein jeden Shabbos. Shabbos soll sein, Shabbos soll sein. Shabbos auf der ganzen Welt. Shabbos soll sein, Shabbos soll sein. Shabbos auf der ganzen Welt. Ja, la, 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 ja, la, la, ja, la, 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 ja, la, la, ja, la, 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 ja, la, la, Sholem, 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 Sholem. Soll sein jeder Sholem. Sholem soll sein, Sholem soll sein. Sholem auf der ganzen Welt. Sholem soll sein, Sholem soll sein. Sholem auf der ganzen Welt. Ja, la, 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 ja,
Your
la,
part.
la, ja, la, 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 ja, la, 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 ja,
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So good to see live, warm bodies here together celebrating Shabbat. I'm Rabbi Kavod Weider, and together with Cantor Natalie Young, we will be your guides for this evening's Shabbat experience. If you're new to Temple Beth El, if just a few things. One is if you need to use a restroom, you go out the door to the top of the stairs here and make a right. And there's a water fountain, and go down to the end, and there's restrooms there. Feel free at any point during the service to go and use those if you need to. Also, go ahead and notice where the exits are. There's one right here. There's one over on the side. In case there would be emergency and we need to make a fast break, you know where you might go. Also, want to really appreciate everybody for wearing masks while we're here in the sanctuary. It's something that just helps us all be able to take care of each other and feel comfortable being together while we're still kind of coming back to life in so many ways. And a couple things about this Shabbat. This is a really special Shabbat on a number of levels. One is we are celebrating Eve and Stella Meyer's Benot Mitzvah, which they'll be called to the Torah tomorrow morning, and the Myers family is here tonight and will lead us in lighting candles in a moment. This is also a new kind of service in that it's called our Flashback Friday service, which is going to be the last Friday of the month. And this is where we get to experience some of the melodies of Temple Bethel that were sung like 30 years ago. Also, some of these older melodies, especially tonight, because we are also having our Refugee Shabbat, which is our opportunity to really tap into the real live journeys and challenges of many folks that are coming from all over, from Afghanistan, and trying to, and fleeing very difficult situations. I know for a lot of us right now, our minds and hearts are very tuned into the war that is happening now with Russia and Ukraine, and all of the people that are fleeing from Ukraine and trying to survive. And so we'll definitely have an opportunity to say a prayer for them as well. But we're also, in spirit of our Refugee Shabbat, Cantor Young has brought a lot of melodies, Jewish melodies from all over the world, some Sephardic ones, because as a people, we have had to leave many different places. And so this will be a celebration of those journeys as well. Before we invite up the Myers family to lead us in the lighting of candles and welcoming Shabbat, Shabbat is called a taste of Olam Haba, a taste of the world to come. And one of the challenges that we face sometimes when we come into Shabbat at the end of a busy week, when we're running, or when there are really difficult things going on in the world, as there are, is how do we find that taste, that Olam Haba, that world to come, that place of depth and presence and spirit, and not get consumed by the suffering that is all around us and that we may be handling. So there is the world as it is, and there's the world as we'd like it to be. And the only way that we get to the world that we'd like it to be is if we can taste it, if we can live it, if we can feel it in our bodies. If we can't do that, if we can't taste that world to come in our being, there is no way that we can hold on to that vision and work towards it in our lives. And Shabbat has this invitation every week: taste what the world can be. For 24 hours, do not let the world consume you. For 24 hours, feel the sense of perfection that exists in this moment. Take a full breath right now. And as you let it out, just let everything go into the beauty of being together, the preciousness of presence here and now. So it's my pleasure to invite up the Meyer family. Any one of you, in addition to Avra and Francine and Eve and Stella, who wants to come up to light candles. And when you come up to the bima, if you would like, you're welcome to unmask, to light and say the blessing. That's why we're just, as leaders, being distant. So come on over to this side, you guys. Here's the candles. This is the real easy to squeeze it. There's no safety.
So is she gonna let her
That sounds like a great idea. I love it. Go ahead. The sweet. No, first light. You light one, and then Stella light one. Okay. And then after you light it, we'll wave all the light into us. Everybody, please stand and get to join us as we welcome Shabbat together. Okay, so now bring the light in. A couple of waves, and go for it.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר של שבת.
Beautiful.
Thank
Yasher
you.
koach. Shabbat shalom. You guys can go have a seat. Thank you. All right. Everybody have a seat. So part of tasting the world to come, the world that is possible, is noticing the blessings in our lives. And on the fourth, or on the last Shabbat of the month, we want to celebrate anniversaries in our congregation. So I'm going to read off the following members who have had anniversaries this month. And if you're tuning in remotely in your homes, or if you're here, and if I call your name, please stand. Stephen and Kathy Binder, Ilana Cheneyfield Harbor and Zachary Harbor, Lori and Richard Covey, David and Miriam Hilburn, Dennis and Alita Kite, Mansour and Goli Kohanteb, James and Linda Lander, Howard and Lainey Mitzman, Jeff and Valerie Smith, and Daniel and Susan Stearns. So to all of you, we have both a little blessing in words and in song. So many years ago, in the presence of family and friends, you consecrated your love for each other, your life together, your sharing joy and sorrow, maybe even raising children or a child that you've been blessed with, and your continuing devotion to each other have nurtured and expanded upon the promise of your first hour as bride and groom. A person of wisdom once wrote, "My soul takes pleasure in three things, for they are beautiful to God and to all people: harmony among brothers and sisters, friendship among neighbors, and a husband and wife suitable to one another. May the love and companionship which you have enjoyed for these past years together continue for as many years and more, and let us say, Amen."
עוד יישמע בערי יהודה ובחוצות ירושלים, עוד יישמע בערי יהודה ובחוצות ירושלים, קול ששון וקול שמחה, קול חתן וקול כלה, קול ששון וקול שמחה, קול חתן וקול כלה.
Please turn in your prayer book to page 18 as we welcome Shabbat with Lecha Dodi.
לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לכבדה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה. סוף מעשה במחשבתי לה, לך דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת לכבדה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת לכבדה.
Page 19. Toreri. That means wake up.
Hiva ore, uri hori, uri uri shir daveri. Kevod Adonai alai nigla. Lecha dodi, lecha dodi lekrat kana. B'nei Shabbat lekabena. Lecha dodi lekrat kana. B'nei Shabbat lekabena.
Please rise, turn towards the door as we welcome the Shabbat bride.
בואי ושלום העטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובטוב וצהלה, תוך אמוניה סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, שבת לכבדה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת לכבדה.
Just please stay standing, and we're aware that some of us, whether we're online or in person here in the sanctuary, have a yard site or are here and feeling the loss of people that we love. And to you we say, Hamakom Yenachem Etchem, may the Holy One comfort you. May you feel the comfort in Shabbat, the comfort of each other in being a sacred community. And just, you can be exactly where you need to be during this service. We will join together in blessing with the Baruch Hu on page 23. If it's your custom to stand during the Shema, please stay standing. If you're accustomed to sit, please sit. We're on page 29.
Adonai
like to invite Eve and Stella to come lead us in the Ve'ahavta.
And you may be seated.
ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, ושרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לכתבות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך, יובי שעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם מקדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Adonai Elohechem, Emet. Thank you. This is beautiful.
We'll continue with Micha Mocha, page 37.
Touched with spirit, she danced toward the light. And the women dancing with their timbrels follow Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced all night long. As Miriam stood upon the shores and gazed across the sea, the wonder of this miracle she soon came to believe. Whoever thought the sea would part with an outstretched hand, and we would pass to freedom and march to the promised land? Here we go! And the women dancing with their timbrels follow Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one who we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced all night long. And Miriam, the prophet, took her timbrel in her hand, and all the women followed her just as she had planned. Miriam raised her voice a song, she sang with praise and might. We just lived through a miracle, we're gonna dance tonight. Here we go, everyone! And the women dancing with their timbrels follow Miriam
Baruch atah Adonai Ka'al Yisrael. Page 39, third line from the top. Spread over us a shelter of your wholeness. We're asking God to do that, but really we are agents of God's blessing. So this is an invitation for all of us to be that shelter for each other.
Baruch atah Adonai, ha'porei sukat shalom, aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim.
Amen. Please turn to page 41. Some of you may recognize this Ladino melody, for Vishamru from Los Bibliocos.
Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et Shabbat לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש שבת ויהי נפש בשביעי, שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש.
Please stand for the Amidah. It will begin on page 43 with an opening musical meditation, and then we'll do the first three blessings out loud together. First blessing, the theme is calling on the strength of our ancestors. Second theme, God's power, not in power over, but power to support, to revive, to heal. And then God's holiness that we find within each other. So we'll do the first three out loud and then have some silent prayer space.
Adonai sfatai tiftach, Adonai sfatai tiftach, ufi yagid teilatecha, ufi yagid teilatecha.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomer chasadim tovim vekonei hakol vezocher chasdei avot ve'imahot umevi geula lifnei v'neihem lema'an shemo bi'ahava melech ozer umoshia umagen Baruch atah Adonai magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah Ata gibor leolam Adonai, mechaye hakol ata rav lehoshia, mashiv haruach umorid hagashem, mechalkel chayim bechesed, mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, somech noflim verofech olim, umatir asurim, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומדומה לך מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל Baruch atah Adonai mechaye hakol Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh u'kdoshim b'chol yom yalelucha selah Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. Please continue silently until page 59, and you can be seated when you're done. to invite Robin and Deborah and Howie up to the bima.
Shalom bimramo Uyas shalom aleinu
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Many of us are familiar with the famous Torah verse, "You shall not oppress a stranger, a ger, for you know the feelings of the stranger, having yourselves been strangers in the land of Egypt." One of the Torah's central projects is to turn memory into empathy and moral responsibility. Appealing to our experience of defenselessness in Egypt, the Torah seeks to transform us into a people who see those who are vulnerable and exposed rather than looking past them. The Torah appeals to our memory to intensify our ethical obligations. Having tasted the suffering and degradation to which vulnerability can lead, we are bidden not to oppress the stranger. The prohibition is so often cited that it's easy to miss just how radical and non-obvious it is. The Torah could have responded quite differently to the experience of oppression in Egypt. It could have said, since you were tyrannized and exploited and no one did anything to help you, you don't owe anything to anyone. How dare anyone ask anything of you? Or it could have responded, since no one did anything to help you in Egypt, you should only be concerned with taking care of your own people. But it chooses the opposite path. Since you were exploited and oppressed, you must never be among the exploiters and the degraders. You must remember what it feels like to be a stranger. Empathy must animate and intensify your commitment to the dignity and well-being of the weak and vulnerable, and God holds you accountable to this obligation. While the Exodus commands us not to oppress the stranger, Leviticus, the next book, goes further, moving from a negative commandment to a positive one. In chapter 19, we find, "When a stranger resides with you in your land, you shall not wrong him. The stranger who resides with you shall be to you as one of your citizens. You shall love him as yourself, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. I am God." And then Deuteronomy takes it a step further. In chapter 10, Moses says, "The great and mighty, awesome God who shows no favor and takes no bribe, but upholds the cause of the fatherless and the widow and loves the stranger, providing him with food and clothing. You too must love the stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt." Here, the text states that God's greatness and awesomeness is not linked to the creation of the world or the ability to smite God's enemies, but instead is linked to God's fairness and God championing the stranger, the oppressed, and the downtrodden. Here, the Torah presents a radical challenge and obligation. If you want to love God, love those who God loves. Love the fatherless, the widow, the orphan, the stranger. Love those most vulnerable. We must do this because it is who God is and because of what we ourselves have been through. I'm proud to say that our synagogue is a member of the Orange County Jewish Coalition for Refugees, who's currently deeply involved in helping Afghan refugees get settled in our area. We're deeply honored to have Naqib Mirzada with us tonight, a former member of the Afghan National Army who fled Afghanistan when the Taliban came to power. It's my pleasure right now to call up our Vice President of Tikkun Olam, Deborah McKee, to share a poem with us, and as we move into our hearing from our speaker.
This poem is entitled Free. Last year, this girl you see, she was not a refugee, but just a child who loved to read, to walk with grandma by the sea. The nights were loud, they had to flee, so now we call her a refugee. She is a child, may she be free, she could be you, she could be me.
I'd like to call up Robin Ijams, who is the co-chair of our Jewish Values in Action Committee.
Good evening and Shabbat Shalom. As Rabbi Kavod said, I'm Robin Ijems, and with Barbie Schwid, I'm the co-chair of the Temple's Jewish Values and Action Committee, which is continuing the work of the committee that was previously known as Jewish Justice Advocates. Despite the change in the committee's name, our mission is the same. Our goal is to advance Jewish values and engage our community in acts of tikkun olam, repairing our world, through advocacy of moral and social justice. Important topics that we will be focusing on this year include welcoming the stranger by advocating for refugees and the unhoused, fighting for racial justice and equity, including within the Jewish community, strengthening our democracy by advocating for voting rights, protecting our planet by championing legislative solutions to environmental issues. We would love for you to join us in this important work. To receive information about our programs, committee meetings, or other advocacy opportunities in the greater community, look for the Jewish Values in Action link under Tikkun Olam on the Temple's website. With everything going on in the world, including the departure of the United States from Afghanistan last summer, and just this week, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, our work advocating for refugees has taken on new urgency. We will be focusing our attention on immigration policies as well as on hands-on ways we can support refugees seeking to build new lives here. One of our partners in this work is the Orange County Jewish Coalition for Refugees. OCJCR is a group of individuals, synagogues, and Jewish community organizations who support refugees locally and worldwide. They are a signatory to the Highest Welcome Campaign, which is a network of over 400 congregations and organizations across the country who are responding to the largest refugee crisis in human history. We will be posting some information about some of the Highest and OCJCR's work and upcoming programs and events and ways that you can get involved at the JVA link on the Temple's website. Now I'd like to turn over to Howie Schwid, who has more to say about OCJCR, as well as ways you can help refugee families here in Orange County.
Thank you, Robin. Hundreds of Afghan refugees have settled and are settling in Orange County. Through the Orange County Jewish Coalition for Refugees, we've put together a team of 5 Jewish volunteers working through a local organization called Home for Refugees. We are currently assisting a family of 7 in Santa Ana. Like many of the other refugees, members of this family served as translators for the United States military. This family and others like it need our support. If you're interested in finding out how you can help, please contact me after the service. The Temple has my email address. Tonight's guest speaker, Naqib Mirzada, also worked closely with the American military. He came to the United States in 2012 for military training and graduated from the U.S. Military Academy at West Point in 2017. He earned a Bachelor of Science degree from West Point with a double major in International Relations and Defense Strategic Studies and a minor in Systems Engineering. He also graduated from the U.S. Army's premier leadership course, Ranger School, Infantry Basic Officer Leader course, and Air Assault School. He returned to Afghanistan to join the Afghan Special Forces a year after graduating. Naqib was then selected for an elite commando team to deploy to emerging crises throughout Afghanistan, where he planned and supervised nearly 600 missions involving special forces and commandos, which led to the liberation of over 50 people held captive by ISIS and the Taliban. He earned several military awards for bravery and meritorious service. Our country owes him a debt of gratitude for his service. We all heard in the news about the harrowing experiences at the Kabul airport when the U.S. left Afghanistan. Naqib was there. I hope you will listen to his story and come away with a further understanding of the Afghan refugee experience. Naqib?
Hello everyone, good evening. As I was on my way, something struck me really hard. And that goes back to, my dad asked me that, is Kiev still uninvaded? Has Russia entered? It kind of surprised me. And myself too, last night I woke up at 3 o'clock to just see what's going on in Ukraine. And I'm from Afghanistan. I fled once with my family in '96. We had to leave because my dad imprisoned by Taliban in '90s when they first took over. And we had to flee and we went to Iran. But we always missed and to go back to our country. So we went back. And something that over time, I continued to tell myself that I don't want to be oppressed or see my people oppressed again. And that kind of led me to pursue and to listen to my parents and to understand that what I need, what career I should choose. And that's why I chose to wear a uniform and serve my people. And that was the reason I thought this is the best way to help. And that was the main idea that me trying to pursue and becoming an officer in Afghan Special Forces or Afghan Army. And continuing that, when I was in Kabul and graduating high school and basically coming to the States, and I always had this in my mind that I need to go back, I need to help, and I need to save my people. And there are so many Afghans in Afghanistan that they need, by any means, they need protections, they need safety, and things that I learned here I thought is going to be much useful. From 2012 all the way to 2018, I didn't go back home. I stayed and I continued. I completed my education and went back in Afghanistan. And I joined Afghan Army and continued to work. And our work was across Afghanistan. So we had to basically respond to a crisis that was happening in Afghanistan. But when it comes to Afghanistan and the fighting and what we see in Ukraine, it's very hard to understand, but we all know that those evils coming in in the same image that we are. And that was the difficulty that we had in the fighting in Afghanistan. And because our rules of engagement was to protect people, to protect schools, and to make sure that everyone live in safety and security. But we reached to the point that we felt almost not weak, but not having the capacity. And it's come back because those evils turn every soft target into their legitimate target. So we had to protect mosques, we had to protect the scholars, we had to protect the schools, we had to protect ceremonies, gatherings. And it was so bad that it was beyond the capacity that all these things turn into military targets for these evils. And we had to continue. We couldn't stop. And I was ready to do anything. And to do anything, I showed up to my wedding just 3 days before my wedding because I was in a mission in Kandahar. And when I got married, I have to leave my wife and go back to Kandahar because we had a mission going on. I couldn't stop there. And we've been doing that for months, and at least for 4 years when I went back from the States, non-stop. So I loved my family, my parents, and my wife, but they knew that I have a mission, and that was something that I was trained for. But when we got to August 15, when evils prevailed and took over Kabul, so I had to give my family 45 minutes heads up that I am coming home and pick you guys up. So this is evening of August 15. When I received the very last call from my US partners and my boss, General Sami Sadat, that we are evacuating and we're leaving Afghanistan, and I was still in uniform on August 15. And that's when I told myself, this is it. This is basically end of all the dream that I had to keep Afghanistan safe, and like any other countries, to bring prosperity and safety to my people. But to me, that moment, it was like, this is it. It's over. And I had to call my family, still in uniform, while we reported that outside Kabul airport is basically taken over by Taliban. I had to go and grab my parents, my 3 sisters, and my wife, because those were the only I had, and I had to bring them to safety. I drove back home. We packed, literally, we turned off the stove because they were preparing dinner. And we came back to the Kabul airport on August 15. We spent the whole night. We couldn't figure out to get boarded onto the airplanes. And we witnessed the chaos, thousands of people seeking refuge in Kabul airport. And we had to see people falling off of the airplane. And my wife and my sisters had to witness getting shot at in front of them. And we had to see people getting shot at in front of us, getting wounded. And when I asked my wife and sisters, they tell me back that was the worst time that they've been to. And that was something I never wanted to happen again, but unfortunately it happened again to us. And we had to leave Afghanistan in August 17th, arrived in the States in August 28th, and as of November, we settled in Orange County, California. And the reason why Ukraine struck me today, and my family and my wife and myself, it's because of the empathy, and it's because of we think that we are much related to the misery that they are. That's something that, as an Afghan, that who had to leave his home, we didn't want that happen, but we had to. And we don't want that misery, we don't want that suffers for the people of Ukraine. And that relationships made us to go back and to care about Ukraine. And even today, we cannot stop thinking about Afghanistan. We cannot stop reaching out back. Like, my wife speaks twice a day to her parents. And he tells me that he wants to, hopefully in a year or two, or maybe soon, that he get to see her parents. And she was telling me that she wants to hug her mom for so long that she doesn't want to leave her to go. It's very emotional to me, but these are the sufferings, and these are the challenges and struggle that we faced. And I personally, the mission is not over for me. I'm continue to pursue the mission it doesn't have to be limited to Afghanistan, but to the world here in the States and Afghanistan in Europe, because there are more of us. When I see things just growing up in the States, going back to Afghanistan, being all, like witnessing all this suffering, and I get to learn that there are more people that they think good, which they uphold with the moral standards. And I think for us to achieve a prosperity, I think that's what we're all struggling for. It requires us to unite it, and the evils that are amongst us in our images, they're hurting the humanity. We need to do something against them. And that's the sense of mission that I have. And even after we arrived here, so that then this is something I'm continuously thinking about and reaching out back to my friends in Afghanistan and talking to my friends here in the States how we can help, how we can change. And I want to take this time to express my gratitude and my appreciation on behalf of my family, because when we had no place to go, there were so many friends from the US, classmates that I had over time when I was here. They were reaching out, checking on us, and basically they helped us to get evacuated from Afghanistan and arrived in refugee camp in Fort Bliss. And when first time we went to Austin, Texas in September, there was a family that hosted my 3 sisters, my wife, and my parents for 50 days in their house. And that's very meaningful to us. And then I had the great opportunity to work here in California, and I decided to move here. And when I arrived, I linked up with Len and her team, and they were helping us, my family, to get settled. To me and my family, these are very meaningful. Like, while we had all those sufferings and pains and like leaving our house and everything behind, and just seeing the level of hospitality and the number of people that we encounter with, and they helped us, it brings that hope and a happiness to my family and to myself as well. And I want to, again, thank you, Len and her team. They're constantly checking with my parents, my sisters, and my wife. And I have a feeling that someone is taking care of them. I go to work, and I don't have to be worried about their medical appointments, their classes, because I know Len team is always checking on them and reaching out to them. Thanks so much.
Wow. Thank you so much, Naqib, for sharing your story and really being a living example of taking your own experience and having that be a mission in you to serve and to expand beyond yourself. You are a living Torah. So thank you. Thank you for sharing with us. This is an opportunity we have for a Misha Berach prayer for healing, and we can think globally right now for all of those folks still in Afghanistan, in the Ukraine, people who are in need of healing, support, being lifted up. They can be in our prayers. We can also include people in our lives personally who need physical healing or healing from mental illness or addiction. If you're in your homes, please feel free to call to mind the names of people you want to include in our prayer, and of course here in our sanctuary.
Avotenu, Mikor
63 if you want to join along.
The renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Please stand for Aleinu on page 64. It is upon each of us to praise the one through our actions and our hearts. Aleinu leshabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoye haratzot, velo samanu kemishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו, ושמו, ושמו אחד. You may be seated. One of our wonderful customs at Temple Bethel is to not just send prayers with our mouths and hearts, but also with food, with a challah. And there are people in our community, two in particular, who are not able to be here tonight because they're recovering from illness. And each one of us has the mitzvah to be able to deliver a challah after you leave here tonight. So this challah goes to San Juan Capistrano. And how it works is there's a phone number. You just call to say, I'm leaving Temple Bethel and I have a challah to deliver to you. Just want to let you know, you can just leave it on the door and head off. So is there anybody that would volunteer to take this to San Juan Capistrano and just have the blessing of a mitzvah? Thank you. Thank you so much, Gary. And this one here is Lake Forest, also not far. Oh, and right there. In the row, to the fourth row. Thank you. Wonderful.
Thank you, Stu.
Mourner's Kaddish is found on page 74. And, 73. In our synagogue family, we are in the Shloshim period for Marilyn Kappas, the mother of our member Chris Kappas. And if I say the name of your loved one, whether you're tuning in from your home or you're here in the sanctuary, please stand in honor of your connection to them. Ira Adler, Edna Amin, Joseph Ben Tzvi, Billa Bender, Martin Brown, Saul Kaplan, Paul Dennis, Francis Disman, Beth Ervis, Hyman Fink, Seymour Garfinkel, Hy Gerber, Solomon Gerlitsky, Maurice Gibble, Chaim Pesach Glazier, Mrs. Celia Goodman, Josephine Gubner, Isidore Kaplan, Bernard Joy Kaplan, Harry Kirshner, Alton Elliott Knight, Maurice Leibowitz, Lawrence Lang, Abe Levin, Eugene Mandel, Charlotte Marcus, Joan Marshall, Ada Malsinski, Sadie Milner, Joe Noble, Harold Norman, Rose Pazernick, Alan Perlow, Herbert Phillips, Sonia Rappaport, Martin Reich, Faith Resnick, Joseph Robbins, Emily Rosen, Joseph Rubenstein, Leon Safran, Ruth Sandler, Joseph Shapiro, George Joseph Siegel, Fred Silverberg, Max Simmons, Gertrude Strauss, Flora Tawil, Simon Trieper, Manessa Weinstein, Nicole Willens, all those who have perished in the Ukraine, all those who perished in the Shoah. We have anybody else that we're saying Kaddish for? Please say the name. Thank you. You may stand or sit according to your custom for Mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah v'alma divrach hirute v'yamlich malchute b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehe shmei rabbah mevorach le'olam olmei olmaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudisha b'rechu Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. May their memories be for a blessing. You may be seated, except for, I'd like to call up Barbie Schwid and even Stella Myers to get ready to lead us in Kiddush. And Barbie is going to share a reading in preparation for Kiddush in just a moment. I'm just going to share some temple news first. So please support our religious school with the mitzvah of sending Mishloach Manot to our community. You can check out your email or website for how to participate. Also join us for the first Friday Shabbat festival next Friday on March 4th. Also, please, if you'd like to join me in the Chazon Jewish Environmental Bike Ride on March 6th, it starts at 8 a.m. You can visit the temple website for more details. You can find out what's going on in the temple with a chat with the board on Wednesday, March 9th at 8 p.m. And you can contact Amy Packer, our president, to submit a question in advance. And join the Men's Club Breakfast on Thursday, March 10th at 9:30 a.m. at the Broken Yoke Cafe in Mission Viejo. And finally, mark your calendars for May 7th, our annual gala, which is our largest community event and biggest fundraiser. Great auction items, great food, and great fun for all. So I invite Barbie to share with us a reading, and that will take us right into sanctifying Shabbat through Kiddush. So, Barbie.
We lift this cup with words remembering our ancestors, Exodus from Egypt on our lips, Zecher Litziat Mitzrayim. As we recall that ancient journey from slavery to freedom, we think also of the many times throughout history that our people have wandered in search of safety. From Tsarist Russia to the horrors of the Holocaust, to persecution in Iran, the former Soviet Union, Cuba, Ethiopia, and beyond, time and time again, we have found ourselves forced out of our homelands for being who we are. But each time we were held together by community and assisted by those who risked their safety and protection of ours. We continued to survive against all odds as our hearts grew to hold others who would come to experience what we had. We fill our Kiddush cup to overflowing, hoping that the joy of Shabbat will spread into the week to come. And so it is as we welcome refugees and asylum seekers into our communities today.
Thank you, Barbie. I also forgot to mention that Barbie Schwid is also, with Robin, co-chair of our Jewish Values in Action Committee.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pari hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidikshanu b'mitzvotav, veratzavanu. B'Shabbat kasha'op be'achava uvratzon hin lanu. Zikaron lemase pereshit. Kihu yom tehila lemich urei kodesh. Zelizat mitraim. Kivanu vecharta beotanu kidashta michohamim v'shabbat koshecha ve'achvara uvratzon hinhaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai Mikodesh HaShabbat L'chaim.
It's the good stuff.
You can hold up the challah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. That challah is for you guys.
Take a bite. Take the whole thing, actually.
It's for your
all
whole
for your
family.
family.
So bring it on
Just
to the
spread it.
back and
It's gonna be
tear it
way too
open.
Thanks, guys. You did great.
Awesome.